The following podcast is being brought to you by the Defy Life Podcast Network.
And I was like, yes, hi. I was so excited.
Oh, we said hi. Let me get the hi again.
Okay, hi.
A guy gets to a point and he asks you to marry him, he really wants to marry you.
Mm-hmm. He ready.
Like he really feels like, you know what, she's the one. She's the one.
You already getting the goods. You got to pay for it. Bring me the ring and get on one knee.
Okay.
Or two.
You need time to observe someone and really get a sense of how well do they treat you, how well do they handle adversity.
You're not the one because you don't have grit, the perseverance. You ain't really want me because you ready to give up. Because I said no. Nah, you shouldn't have asked. But since I said no, now it's your job to stay in the game and try to fight for it.
Boy, on 5 Heartbeats, where you make the announcement you're going solo at the awards ceremony.
What's up, and happy One Eye Shut Day. Welcome to our podcast about many topics from the perspective of 3 married couples. You can listen to us on defylifepods.com, Spotify, iTunes, and any of the other popular podcast platforms. I'm the host of One Eye Shut, and with me I have the usual crew. Let's just jump right in, guys, and do our word of the day, and see how everybody's doing. Kick us off, Al, please.
My word of the day is, I think my word of the day is I am just conflicted. Conflicted. I think that's my word of the day. It's just a lot of pots on the stove, some simmering, some burning like hell, some done, and you just looking at the stove, don't even know what the fuck to take off the stove, or just conflicted, just caught up, confused, all that shit. So, you know, some of the meals coming out right, some of them you should have been paying attention. So, yeah, that's my word of the day.
Thank you. Conflicted. I like that. Only in that I know of some of the reasons why you are conflicted. I might have something to do with that. But not to my fault, of course. But
no, we was just talking about that, but with Thomas and Keita. So go ahead.
I'm just saying. I appreciate where you are, babe. Ladine, how you doing today?
Hi.
Hey.
What is happening? Oh, yes. Today is a great day. I'm excited for today. I'm loving today. I wasn't loving today all day, but I am now. I'm telling you, I feel so much better. I'll tell you what a shower and some oils could do. So, today, excited. Yes. Excited for life, right?
Life. Yeah, I'll take it. Nothing else needs to be said about that. All right, Jay. Ladine is excited for life. What you got?
She is. I'm going to say my word for the day is resilient. I just happened to run across an article today that the credit bureaus are introducing a new credit score to test and to show how resilient your credit score and to see how people have weathered these trying times during the pandemic, and see how people have weathered the storm with their credit. And I feel resilient because my credit score has actually risen over 20 points since the pandemic. So just kind of been focused on it, and it was kind of one of the things I didn't want to let slip during this time. And so I'm feeling resilient, and health-wise, I'm feeling better. So I'll go resilient for those reasons.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Chiquita, you up next?
Yes. So today, like I was saying earlier off, I feel appreciated today. My boo gave me a pedicure, and I didn't have no idea. Thank you, babe.
Nice. Thank you, babe.
That's my dog.
So look, I gotta say, you make those deposits, that shit go a long way.
There you go. He might. No, I'll leave that for after the show.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what's happening right now, Thomas. What's going on?
That sounds good for you, Thomas. I'm just saying.
Hey, I think she see the other side of the spectrum. Or at least you want to.
At least you want to, exactly. Don't fuck it up during the show, Thomas. You in a good place right now. Don't fuck it up.
You good right now. You good right now.
Good right now. Stay out the water. Stay out the water, Thomas.
Yeah, crazy. But I wanted. My word is camaraderie. I spoke to a old alum of mine that, and I just touched bases with him, told him I was proud of him, and I was just telling him things that I want to do right now. And he was like, you know what? Come up by the campus. I'll introduce you to my principal and everything, and we can probably get something going. So I feel like, oh, okay, that's that old college camaraderie. So that, that's how I feel like it. So that's my word for the day.
Camaraderie. I love the words. Love them. Love them. I'm gonna go with value. It is one of those things I struggle with it, right? So in complete transparency, I struggle with knowing, appreciating, realizing my value. And so that's just one of the things that's been on my mind, because I have been, as a couple of things have happened, and with all seriousness, I am a one of those pots on that stove that Al referred to in his space of conflict. So just valuing myself and understanding the role that plays in every situation, both good and bad. And just owning it and demanding it and accepting it and all of that. So, at any given moment, we are all on a spectrum of learning and growing and, all of that. And so, we've had some great words tonight. So I feel like the energy is going to be spectacular in this space, from excitement to camaraderie. And so I just think, it just opens up the door for our topic tonight. So last week we talked about love languages. It was a great show, y'all. So if you missed it, please go back and listen. The love languages, if you haven't had any experience with it, please read the book, or at least read the articles out there on the book if you are in a relationship, or if you're not. Like, love languages just seems to be just a pretty good starting point for any relationship, including your children, because your children have love languages. Figure out what they are, because it just helps every relationship. And it's so amazing to me, things that are so simple, like, right, when you think about love languages and how you love, like, it's a pretty simple concept, right? But it is incredibly deep and complex, much like our topic for tonight. So most weeks we don't necessarily plan a topic based on the previous week's topic, right? But this week it just kind of seems to line up. One, because two is a very simple concept, but something very difficult to So last week, I think we kind of learned how love languages are as it relates to communicating with your spouse, to the people you're in relationships with. And so this week, we are talking about just communication, those hard conversations that we have to have. What do they look like? How do we start them? What do we do? Like, just what does it mean? Like, all of that. How do you approach those difficult concepts in your relationship? So for the five of you, are there topics like that you already know that's just challenging? And if you feel, and so one of the, let me just back up too, right? Because I'm not sure about everybody else, but there are many conversations that when we come on these podcasts, I'm kind of like a little afraid, right? Like, what's going to happen? How smoothly is this going to go? How pissed off are people going to be off after the conversation? Like, real talk, I just be like, oh my God. And then throughout some of the conversations, there have been moments where I'm just like, oh boy, they going to be mad tonight, you know. But
or we gonna be mad tonight.
Oh, we gonna be mad. Oh, absolutely. I am not excluding us in the they, right? The last week was one of those conversations, but it went really well, and we always have an after the show conversation. We also have a before the show conversation too, and those are often interesting. But after the show conversation last week, like I left thinking, like, okay, everybody's going to sleep in the same bed tonight. Like, it's cool. We're going to be okay. So this is another one of those type conversations because you just never know where it's going to go. And this stuff, while we do it like with a certain amount of lightheartedness, like some of this is like real conversations. And for all of us, we're pretty authentic and real in, you know, how we present what the topic is and how we deal with our conversations, all of that. And because we are so authentic, it always has the potential to go left, right? But that's also the beauty of our relationship, because after the show, we have the opportunity to like reel each other in and be like, yo, nah, that wasn't right. You said this, blah, blah, blah. So it all works out well so far. So hopefully tonight, after we had this conversation about communication, we will still be communicating very well when we close our eyes for the night tonight. So what about it? What about it, guys? So are there any particular like hard conversations or hard topics that you all have on a regular basis? And if not, that it doesn't have to be on a regular basis, but when it's time to have those hard conversations, how do you approach them? Is there any formula, any particular practices that you use every time?
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. No, yes, you got to, because look, these difficult conversations, I gotta breathe just even thinking about them, you know, because they get really serious, right? So I do have some rituals that I do, because my husband and I, we're just we receive love differently, all that good stuff, right? So we're just complete opposites when it comes to communicating. So there could be times where we'll be saying the same thing, but neither one of us can see the other person's way. So JR, I know that he has to do a lot when it comes to me, because I don't think I'm ridiculous. I think I'm pretty basic. So my husband and I just basically wait, stop.
You broke up. You little chopper.
Serious. So we
it sounded like she said.
It's not funny. So anyway, so we usually I think, babe, we do a good job at difficult conversations. You don't think so?
We do.
It's your turn to talk, boo.
But I'll let you speak, and then I'll speak. So go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Finish up.
Okay. I'm just saying. Anyway, so I definitely think we do very well. So for me, JR's style of the way, I guess, in which he converses is completely different from Ladina's, and he's a little more analytical. He goes to the logic right away. JR's going to look for an answer right away. With me, I go straight for the emotion and the feeling. So that's why it's so difficult, because I'm over here like losing my mind, and my poor husband, he's like, but babe, I got this, like I got you. And I'm like, no, fuck that. So the conversations, they may not even start off difficult, but sometimes they might end difficult. And so then sometimes we won't even finish the conversation because it might have started off good, but now we're on to a whole new tune over here, and this isn't working. So like, goodbye. And that's me. That's what I'll do. And he's like, bitch, like, he doesn't call me a bitch, but I could see his face. He's like, bitch, like, we gonna have this fucking conversation. You know what I'm saying? And he'll say it sometimes. But anyway, it's, I'm sorry. One of my rituals, because I'm just babbling here. So one of my rituals is using lemongrass. So for me, lemongrass, I don't know. It does that thing that I was telling you guys about before the show. So lemongrass is the oil of cleansing. So I am a wellness advocate. So I love essential oils. We all know this. And so with the lemongrass oil, it cleanses the energy not only in the room in a diffuser, but it also cleanses the energy on your body. So me being empathic, it's very important for me to know how to cleanse myself so that I can start in a conversation with my husband where I am attentive to what he's saying and what he's feeling, and I'm present. Period. So I cleanse whatever's happening or whatever has happened so that I can come into our conversation new. That's one of my tactics that I use. I don't think, of course, the body, the jelly, the juice of the conversation, that's never going to be easy. But if you're both willing to do whatever work it is that allows you to be present in the moment with your spouse without having all these backed up feelings and emotions, and like I hate when people come to the table like prepared with like a fucking book of things to say. Say what the fuck you need to say when the time comes, so that we can address things. Do you know what I'm saying? So difficult conversations, yes, they may suck, but they're very imperative for growth and for this relationship to fucking move. Like, we got to do this, babe. So we do it. I think JR and we do way better than we did. But before, I want to say maybe like about 4 or 5 years ago, we communicated horribly, and we don't always communicate so great. Sometimes we piss each other off, but we've definitely gotten better. I think we have a lot more respect for each other inside of our communication. We still get on each other's nerves, yes, but yeah, I know that I respect my husband a lot more, and that allows my conversation with him to flow. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I do absolutely agree that we have grown in our ability to communicate with each other. And that's just one, natural progression in learning each other better, but two, being diligent about being better with each other. And whether that's listening or comprehending or, using your ears instead of your mouth, just being diligent about learning each other better. But we are absolutely wired differently when it comes to communication. So those are things we have to learn and unlearn a lot of things when it comes to communicating with each other. I'm a direct communicator. I'm sure, there are multiple people on this call who've heard who have witnessed consistently my mode of communication. Pooh, I'm sure you're used to it too. If it's something that needs to be said, I'm going to say it. It's not personal, and I love you. And if I can't say it to you, who will? So that's just how I communicate. And it took my wife a while to get adjusted to that and get used to my mode of communication. I tend to over communicate. So I'm, as opposed to Lay's, when she gets emotional, she'll shut down and she'll back away from the conversation, and a lot of times I refuse to let her do that. And it took me a while to learn to back off a lot of times because I still don't understand it, but I acquiesce. But I don't understand why you can't just have this conversation. I never understood that. But we've gotten a lot better, and we're able to understand each other and attempt and give the effort and the attempt to get each other in communication. And sometimes that involves me again just backing down and saying, look, I know in the moment she's not going to submit or concede a point in the moment. It may take her a couple hours to say, look, I understand you were right. She won't do it in the moment, but she'll take a day or two and think about it and come back to me. So I've learned to wait for that. And I see that, she's learned to, not shut down, but kind of let me know, look, I don't want to talk about this right now, and voice that to me instead of shutting down. So just ways of learning each other and learning to communicate better and speak each other's language. So we're definitely a lot better, and it's done our relationship, great.
Yes.
just a resounding yes of agreement.
Yes. Yes. That was great. I love it.
I think this might be the first time that by the time the both of you finished talking, that it was just like, yes. Like, right. That's all that was said. Like, yes.
And you know what else I think helps? The older our kids get, it's easier for me and Leigh to be on teams and say, fuck them niggas. Like it's just easier for us to be like, you know what? We ain't mad at you. We got to be on the same team. Fuck them niggas. Yeah, fuck them kids. Like, so the older they get, it's easier for us to just team up and be on some, we bonding on some shit right here. Fuck them niggas. So.
Right, and it's so true, right? And that's just based on the circle of life. As they get older, they need you less, and it's just like priority shift, right? And so I remember this was a little while ago. One of Al's cousins had posted this question, like it was basically, who do you choose first, or who has priority, your children or your spouse?
Oh my God!
And this particular cousin is. She's younger than, I would say, like now she's in her, so let's say this happened, she was in her late 30s, right? But she doesn't have a spouse, she doesn't have children, just kind of relationships. And so I don't know if it was an age thing or what, but most of the people that were responding to children, and I'm sitting there just like, nah, y'all got that shit wrong. Like, and yes, of course, when we're talking about it, people need to eat and there's not enough food. Of course, you feed your babies first, and adults they deal with the challenge of being hungry, blah, blah, blah. But like on day-to-day kind of stuff, it's like, particularly the older the children get. And then somebody asks, specifically, so whose plate do you fix first, the children or your husband? No, what? And again, that's kind of situational. If your children are really young and if they're hungry, they're starting, they're crying and blah, 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 then you feed your children first. But like right now on a regular day, now my husband gets to eat first. One, because look, for my children in this situation right now with this pandemic, with whatever, like y'all ain't really contributing to the household financially. Right. So I feel like the person who put the steak on the stove kind of should be eating before the people who just here to eat. I'm just saying.
Fuck how cute you are at this point.
Right. Like, and I gave my input and I got a little a good amount of backlash from it, like, because I was like, nah, like, and that changes over the years. Is again, the priorities change, your children, like, but it gets to a point where like, nah. And some children, and I ain't calling no names, not mine nor y'all's, I'm just saying. But some children really need that point driven home, like, nah, you don't run the show around here.
Man.
Like, Real talk. You wait until everybody else eat.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just
and I used to struggle with that question. Like, who would you prioritize first, your kids or your wife? I used to struggle with that. But now it ain't no question.
Like, ain't no question.
Them little dudes can kick rocks. I love them.
Of course you love them.
Yeah.
Of course.
But
and they're getting older and they need you less and less. And
Right.
you laid that foundation of like, yo, I'm your pops. I'm gonna be here all the time.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, dude, you 13. Your mama come first today.
Right.
And you need to be okay with that.
Exactly. Like, and you gotta be okay with that. And it's been like, you 13, your mama especially comes first now because you don't like me most of the time, and I don't like you most of the time. But
there you have it.
Lucky you eating.
I'm gonna feed you, and I'm gonna take you to McDonald's when you want to go, and I'll do all that shit for you. But most of the time, I can't stand you. All you do is all you do is need rides, need feeding, and dance. That's all you do.
That's all you do. And in 5 or 6 years, they really ain't gonna give a damn about you.
Right. I still love you then.
So really, you better cling to your spouse. These children, they don't give a damn about you.
Mm-hmm.
Real talk.
So the older they get, I think it's easier for me and Lay to communicate because I'm just like, why are we fighting? We already got to fight against 2 other people in this house. I'm not fighting you. So, yeah.
Right. All right. So, Jaquita and Thomas, what y'all got? How do you have these hard conversations? How do you approach them? Are there particular things that you already know this is going to be a problem? You approach them differently or the same, or what y'all got?
I'll go first. Thomas. Well, I'll say me. I approach hard conversations, but I think I approach it wrong. But I think I do that intentionally, though. And the reason why sometimes I approach it wrong, because y'all know the famous word that women will say, or anyone will say, is we need to talk.
Oh.
The only reason why I say we need to talk is because I know that's going to get his attention.
Yeah.
And sometimes he don't pay attention when I say that, and he let it blow. And then I'll be like, bedtime, I'll be like, you ready to talk? So he's already thinking it's something like he doesn't even want to hear it. Pretty bad. But I feel like I think it shouldn't be any type of hard. Well, there is hard conversations, but it needs to still be like approach. I think, because if not, the other person probably was stressed about it. So I feel like I tell Thomas how I feel. Even I feel like the hardest question for us maybe what's the hardest question? I'll say the hardest question for me to talk about maybe is what, like sexual. Those are hard questions, I think. And so that's something I don't think we've talked about before. It could be anything. But that's definitely a hard question. It's like sexual questions. But anything else, man, I'm talking. I'm seeing what's going on. I'm seeing like, what's your problem? Let's get down to it. Even down when it's time to talk about finances. Like, I'll use lady favorite word. Like, what are we doing here? Like,
I mean, come on. What is happening right now?
Come on, son.
Do it. Yeah. Gotta do it.
So, I mean, you have to talk about those things. So,
nah, but you guys have to do a little bit better with talking about the sexual piece. The sexual piece is a big deal. The physical, put your lips together when you say the word, all right? The physical portion of your relationship is fucking important.
Yeah.
Yes. you have to talk about.
But sometimes it's, I feel like that's something we talk about, but I feel like that's, to me, in a relationship, like in a marriage, that's one of the hardest ones to talk about. Because you don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. And then
and you don't got to do it, but you want to do it. If you want to make your relationship last, then you want to go ahead and have those. Yes, it's difficult, but put your fucking big girl and big boy panties and drawers on, and have the conversation, because that shit is important. You guys got to have a physical. I'm telling you, the physical part of a relationship, it's a huge piece. Would you not agree?
Oh yeah,
I think we all agree, right? And so to Chiquita's point, though, especially as women, right? We've kind of been taught that that's an extremely sensitive topic to talk about with dudes, right? Especially if it's around the position of, I want something different, I'm not completely satisfied. I would like to see this, that, and the other thing, right? I find, in my experience, right, I find that women typically will tiptoe around that subject because, like she said, we're so concerned about hurting their feelings. But to Ladine's point, like extremely,
yes, it's extremely important because if I want it, I want it, and I understand sometimes the female can have what's the word, a higher libido, is appetite. Than the male, yes, but at time, and people are conformed and used to thinking about the man being the one that wants it all the time. It's definitely opposite in my relationship. JR is clear. Like, I want physical all the time, and I don't mean like patting, touching. No, I want to give it to my husband, and I want him to give it to me. Yes, often.
It's because you're a Scorpio. You know I can relate.
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of men, not all, but more men have been able to relate to me than women. But I know several women that have been able to relate to me in the same way and actually have the same things happening in their relationships. So it's very interesting, but it's still important because, oh my God, it's important. You got to know what's happening with each other. For real. Anyway, all right, I'll shut up about it.
Well, yeah,
yes.
Like men, probably. I feel like, well, just the men I'm with, that I've been with. So I feel like they never.
What is happening right now?
So I feel like I've never heard like a man really express when it comes to sex to a woman. Well, not with me, but.
What do you mean? Say that again. What do you mean?
When men have Jay ever expressed like things that he don't like what you do, or you maybe don't please him in a certain way and he want maybe this? Have he like expressed that? I'm saying I've never had that where a man really express his feelings on sexual.
I mean, go ahead, Jay.
Oh no.
They want more, but I'm talking about like details.
Yeah, we do.
Go ahead.
I think we do a good job, like sexually, if we want something. And like she says, like, she's a Scorpio, and she definitely has a higher libido than I do. So if it's been too long, she'll let me know. If I want something specific, like I said, hey, hey, I just bought you a car. You know what I want for the next 30 days. So,
mommy's got to make it happen. I'm just saying. But I don't ever have a problem or request. I've never.
All right.
No, absolutely not. That's his stuffing. I'm sorry.
Did you say the stuffing?
Yes.
Now that's something I don't like. I don't like when people refer to it as food. Stuffing a potato salad and shit like I don't like that shit. You know that shit.
I'm not gonna say that.
I know.
What
stop.
you want me to? the pussy? I mean, you want me to call it the pussy?
Stop.
On
I said
radio?
stop. Just stop.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Okay, can we not call it anything and just
Right.
assume that we know what you're talking about?
Exactly.
How about that?
Right. Jesus Christ.
Okay.
What is the problem with us having a conversation about vaginas and penises? Here we
Because
go.
this
That's
is
what we
not-
can call it.
because-
It's right.
There's nothing
Lady,
behind it.
This is what it is
Lady,
right here.
Lady,
Right. But however, we were on like Jaquita and Thomas.
Right.
And somehow you hijacked it.
and let me say something really quick.
And so I'm just saying, like, yes, like right now, we just not talking about pussies and penises.
Right.
We trying
And,
to,
and,
like,
and let me
Jaquita-
say something. And let me say something really quick.
But wait, I want to know how it got to pussies and penises, though.
This is what I'm trying to say. As a podcast director, let me say this.
There you go. Step in.
Not as your co-host. This is a marriage podcast, and our audience is not used to hearing us speak that way. So chances are we're driving some people away when we speak that way, because that's not the audience that we cater to. Now, if we cater to that audience every week, fine, but that's why we don't say those words on a regular basis, because that's not the audience that we cater to. So I'll leave it there.
Okay, husband, shut it down. Okay, I will.
Okay, we note to self and every self on the podcast, right? No penises and no pussies.
And she says it anyway.
Right.
Okay. Jaquita and Thomas.
Note to self, make sure I check the explicit box this week.
There you go.
No, but I totally got her. I totally understand this point. What is happening right now? I don't understand.
You just done hijacked Keita's segment. That's what you done did.
What is happening is,
Keita, where are you?
Keita and Thomas.
I'm waiting. It's Thomas go.
Jaquita, you're done? Okay, cool. Thomas, what you got to say?
Well, I'm totally different. I can communicate and I don't understand it, but it's just like I said before when I was coming out and said I'm totally emotionally stunted. Like I can think of something and I want to say it, but it just won't come out of my mouth. And I really beat myself up to, like, for me to get it out of my mouth, I would just have to really beat myself up, and it's been day after day, hour after hour, and then finally it'll come out. And then I can say I don't know why, but I guess I do know why I'm that way. But it's not like that with anyone else, or like if somebody need to say Jay or my kids or my mom, whomever, like I can get it out. But I it's just hard for me to get it out to her. And I kind of understand it, but I don't understand it. So it's very difficult for me. It really is. So, and I know it drives her crazy because when I hear those words, yeah, we need to talk, and I'm practically losing it at that point. I was like, oh my God, what is this about?
So you got like the. So do you? Is it kind of like you got the yips? Pooh?
No, it's just it's so hard to explain. It's just it's like I don't want her to feel some type of way, or I just don't know. But it's just so difficult for me to get it out of my mouth. But however, when I get it out, I feel so relieved.
Right.
But it's just so hard for me to get it out.
Is that why, like, it takes you into the next week of the podcast to come out with, last week when she said blah, 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 that's not what happened?
No, not really. Not really. And it may sound strange and weird, but I could talk to her better right now with y'all than I could with just her and I.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is one of the beauties of this podcast. Like, real talk, y'all. Every week after the podcast, there is something that I'm able to look at and grow from, or learn something about my husband, you know, or about relationships in general. Like, oh shit, y'all do that? Maybe I can try that. Or y'all do that? Nah, I've been done that. That shit ain't gonna work. You know.
Because
but
every
in
week
so
you
many,
be like, Al, I don't even know who I'm speaking to right now.
I'm just saying.
That happens every week.
I don't know about every week, but it happens often.
Right.
I remember myself saying that a few times, and we ain't but what 6 or 7 episodes in.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like, so it is just it's just amazing, like how much like is garnered from these podcasts just on a personal level.
Absolutely.
You know. So
did I answer the question? Because Keita said you didn't answer the question.
Well, let me say this, Thomas. Is there anything else that you would like to share at this moment?
No, I just want to make sure I answered the question because
you good, boo. If that's what you wanted to say, you good.
Because I guess I really said like everything's hard for me to talk. Right? Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm good with it. Like if you're done, then it's okay. Al.
Mm-hmm.
Your turn.
What do I have to say? So, I mean, generally, the conversations are hard for me. They have, I think, over the years. I mean, you know, you've been with somebody 3 decades. Hopefully, you've improved. I think they've got better. I think part of why they've improved, I think I have become a better listener, become more honest, and try to be more authentic, to use the word we talked about earlier. So I think that has led to better conversations. But I mean, I do struggle with initiating them, and even really initiating them, because oftentimes, sometimes we are worse than when we started. I think what Pooh mentioned in terms of, I think, like, not wanting to hurt someone's feelings, I think is something that I struggle with. So you find yourself trying to filter and come up with the right way to say something, and that's a, you know, where other people, you might just say fuck it and say it. And so I think not wanting to hurt my wife's feelings, I think I struggle at times, especially when I don't like to filter, generally speaking. So it's a challenge when I want to, have to. But I think, you know, I really do believe that over the years, the conversations have got a lot better. It really just speaks to probably how bad they were a long time ago. But I think it definitely is something I struggle with.
So, I guess I kind of agree for the most part. I don't know. Communication is it's extremely challenging for a lot of reasons, but particularly when you're coming from completely different perspectives, right? And I think that over the last several weeks, we can see that as couples, the females and the males tend to have different perspectives. So yeah, there are lots of conversations. I mean, when you live with somebody, you're building a life with somebody, there's lots of hard conversations that have to take place. Al and I were having a hard conversation last night, and one of the things that he said last night, also he just said again, and it's this idea of hurting people's feelings. And I'll just say again that, like I said to him last night, sometimes it's necessary, right? Sometimes I feel like it's a so what. Because I communicate a lot like Jay does, right? Just kind of abrupt, straight to the point. Here's what needs to be said. I've gotten better with that over the years. And honestly, not so much because I believe that that's what needs to happen, but I understand that people respond differently, right? But sometimes, it just doesn't matter. There are some things that need to be said and need to be heard. And so I am very emotional. Like Ladine, I am empathic, which comes with its different types of implications. But at the same time, I just don't feel like that should ever be an excuse for not having a conversation. Because it's either go ahead and hurt the person's feelings or figure out how to say what needs to be said without hurting the person's feelings, if that is what is near and dear to you. But I also wonder, not just with Al, but with people in general, is it really about hurting someone's feelings or not wanting to hurt someone's feelings? Or is it about not wanting to hear and see that I've hurt your feelings? Because sometimes I feel like we know those things that will hurt somebody's feelings, and we have a choice. And so what is really bothering you? Is it the fact that you're hurting the person's feelings, or that it's just in your face at the moment because you see the hurt looks on the face, or because you see the crying? Or is it that what's really bothering you, or is it the fact that you hurt the person's feelings?
I think it's the impact of hurting someone's feelings. And I think, when you are, I think you're right. Everybody's different. So I think when you have this scale of how people react to having their feelings hurt, you have to weigh, do you want that outcome? And so I think the word need to be said, for some people, is want to be said. And I know we use the word needs and wants like they're interchangeable, but I don't. And I think oftentimes people say, this just needs to be said. Did it really need to be said, or you just wanted to say it? And so when you're balancing, does it really need to be said versus what is going to be the impact of me saying this? And a lot of times it's a struggle.
So I have an answer to that comment and or question. And some of the team may have it as well. And so before we go to responding to you, Al, let's go ahead and take a break, get some bills paid for.
Pay the bills.
And we will be back in, shall I say it? In the words of Chuck Woolery, in 2 and 2.
Or 35 seconds. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
We're told that greatness is exceptional when it should be expected. You choose every day to live your life
so
intentionally.
Funny.
Without apology for how bright your light
Comments, was that you laughing?
So go be great. Go be brilliant. Go be you. Go defy
well, you might have should have been,
life.
but you wasn't.
The Defy Life movement is one that speaks to each of us in its own way. Defy Life gear speaks to us all by reminding us that one size does not fit all. Visit defylifegear.com to get fitted for greatness.
So Al took us out with the question of whether or not things need to be said, or is it just about want to be said? And it made me think of last week when we were talking about the love languages, and JR commented that, it's not about being right or wrong. It's just a perspective. Right. And I made the comment that, while I agree with that, like, it's the person, like, it doesn't matter male or female, doesn't matter, like, the perspective. To me, if a person is expressing a need or desire at that moment, it's that person's perspective that's important, because they're sharing with you or the group or whatever what their need or desire is. And so to me, that should be the loudest voice in the room at the time. And so if I say, like, I want to hear it or I need to hear it, like, to me, it's not up to you to decide that I don't need to hear it. For whatever the reason is. And like I explained to him last night, like, sometimes I just need to hear things to process it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need to hear things, and sometimes it's over and over again, because we don't always get it the first time. We don't always get it the 10th time. It doesn't always sound the same when you say it the 3rd time versus the 15th time, like, whatever it is. But to me, like, if someone says to you, I need A, B, and C from you in order to help me be better, or to help me in this situation, or like whatever, then it shouldn't matter what you think about what I need. Like, to me, it's not up to you to decide, well, that's not really a need, it's a want, and you don't get to get it because somehow the value of it has now become about you versus the person that's talking.
So let me be clear. That's not what I was trying to convey. I wasn't trying to convey that the need, whether or not it's a need or want, should be determined by the receiver of the communication. I was saying, as the person sending it, we should use better discretion on, is this something that needs to be said, or do I just want to say it, is what I was trying to get across.
Got you. So how do you all feel about that? The need versus want. Who makes that decision as it relates to having hard conversations and communicating?
I've never even thought about it that way. It's a good way to put it, actually. Because I guess and it makes sense, because I tend to communicate sort of selfishly, because I'm going to convey what needs to be said, according to me. And I think I do, like, kind of discern the difference between need and want, but never really in the regard of, because although I'm a direct communicator, I don't think I'm a harsh communicator. So I tend to make sure I choose my words carefully so that I don't hurt people's feelings, but I don't like hold back getting my point across. So I think there's a way to discern what's a need and what's a want, and still be direct in your communication. And you don't, whether it's a need or a want, I don't think either one of them carry more weight than the other. I just think it's a personal, like, kind of a personal preference of whether you want to deal with the residue after you say it, whether it's worth it on a need base or a want base.
Anybody else?
I'm kind of agreeing with Jay. I never really thought about it that way. I'm looking at it as a need and a want. It just depends on, like, what the conversation is about. I mean, I don't really know what to say about that. They seem the both to me. They seem the same to me, because I feel like if you're saying that you need, then that's something maybe that's stressing, that maybe you're thinking about a lot. You're getting some, you just be thinking about it all the time. So it's something that needs to be said. Something that you want, it could be something petty. I mean, I just want to tell you right now. So it all depends.
I guess wants can be important too. Sorry, Pooh.
Yeah, wants can be important too. So that's why I'm like,
yeah,
I'm on along the lines of them being the same.
Right.
And see me, I guess when I look at it, I don't know. I guess maybe I have this thought of putting myself on the back burner a lot. So I just feel like, you know what, I don't have to say it, or it doesn't. I guess it sounds like an oxymoron because I say, okay, it's a priority, but then I really get down to it and I was like, you know what, it's probably not a priority. I can wait it out. So I guess that's how I think about it. That's why I hardly ever get it out.
Keita just had a birthday.
So that's where I am with that. But it makes total sense to me though.
So and I agree with everybody, right? Because the thing is, like, who determines what's a want and a need?
Right.
Like, if I say this is something that I need, who are you, Thomas, to say, nah, you don't really need that, that's a want. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so in a lot of ways, I feel like that's kind of a moot conversation. It's a moot.
No, I disagree. Because a need is something.
Tell it.
I'm sorry. Okay, a need is something like it's food, shelter, water. Those are needs. All right. So the things that we want are not what we need. So we don't necessarily need that shit. And we want to be in another perspective, you want to be mindful of the way you say what you need, because then you become dependent on that. And there is, and there's just a different way that your mind shifts, that your whole energy shifts in the way you move when you need something versus when you want something. Because when you want something, you do whatever the fuck it takes to get it. Yes? No?
No. And I would say the opposite, right? So to me, it's the needs. Everybody knows, and don't get me wrong, right? Because I'm clear that there's a difference between needs and wants. Right? Like, we know that. And so real talk, needs, if we want to make it about survival or about what you just said, water, food, shelter, right? But when we're talking about, because we're humans, and so when we're talking about relationships, when we're talking about being whole and fulfilled and happy, right? There are some things that people need to be happy. And that's based on an individual perspective. So you can't really tell me. And even if, by definition, I'm not going to die. I would die if I don't get water. I'm not going to die if...
But that would be a much nicer, happier...
Right. But it is something I understand for me, what it takes for me to be happy. So all I'm saying is that while it's not a need by definition, air quotes, I know y'all can't see me, it is something that for me, from my perspective, in my life, in my feeling whole, right? I know what it takes to do that. And so for me to be whole, I need A, B, and C. And to me, it's not for you. I don't care who you are. My husband, my mom, my friend, my cousin, whatever. It's not really for you to tell me what I need and what I don't need.
Right.
But now,
I think
no one has said that, though.
For the record,
no one has said that. No one has said on this podcast so far that the other person should determine the difference between a need or a want. No one has said that. What I have said is that to me, need speaks to necessary. So if it's something is necessary for your happiness, then okay, that we understand that and we should approach it that way. But if it's something that you would like in terms of, I would like this and this would make me happy, then we should approach it differently. And so that's where I'm saying as an individual, we should pay attention to what do we need to be happy and what we would like. And the things that we would like, let's not present them to the other as a need, because when it's necessary, I respond differently.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, and so while it has not been explicitly said, you need this, blah, 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 it's kind of this, it's not, people often are not given the benefit of the doubt. It's questioned when you say, I need A, B, and C. And so the response is, no, that's not a need, that's a want. And all I'm saying is that may be true. But in the moment when someone feels like they need something, I just don't feel that it's for the other person to be like, nah, that's not a need, that's just a want. See, because again, while it may be true, I may not be there at that moment. It may take me next week, next month, next year to be like, you know what? I didn't really need that. I'm better aware of myself and what makes me, I understand now how to get that or whatever it is. And so I don't need that from you, or I don't need that period, but just in that moment. And I just feel like people need to give, grace for what people feel that they need. And again, like we're humans and things change all the time. And the reality of the situation is you may not really, really need that from my perspective. Right. But again, at that moment, sometimes it's the other person's perspective that is, not sometimes, it's always that person's perspective that's the driving force for them. And just to count it out because you have decided that that's not a need, that that's a want. Therefore, you're not going to give it, or you're going to approach it differently because you don't believe it's a need. All I'm saying is that, like, that person who is making the ask, like, that's what they feel is the need. And so it should be considered as a need, even if you disagree. That's just my 2 cents.
I get that. And because you almost have to take their word for it, because necessities and needs from that perspective, like what I need in a relationship or what I need to make me happy, are not universal. Like necessities to survive are universal. So there's no questioning those.
Right.
So when somebody tells you what they need, you kind of got to take their word for it and listen to them and hope they're not shitting you. You know what I'm saying? But, if they're telling you, this is what I need from you, hey, you got to trust.
Right. And this is what I need today.
Right.
Next week, it might not be what I need. Next week.
Absolutely.
I understand that that's a want. I may agree with you, but in the moment, to be like, nah, that's not a need, it's kind of, to me, just counterproductive.
Yeah.
In that moment. I
get it.
So how important is it to you all to win? When you're having these difficult conversations or topics or like whatever, like how important is it, generally speaking, for you to win?
Man.
Well, that's Life Crew guys. I'm sure they want to win in every conversation.
But we know we're not.
Right. Well, it's funny you say that. Like, I think the Defy Life podcast has kind of taught me that you can't win at every debate or conversation because, sometimes people just better than you in the moment. And so sometimes you just got to concede. And just say, you know what?
Real talk.
I lost this one. Fuck it. But, I always say this, and it's something I've learned. And again, being on podcasts every week has taught me this. It's kind of been a training tool, is learning not to have to win in the moment. And it's something I talk to my wife about, I talk to my kids about, I talk to people about it in general. We'd be a lot better off if we didn't try to win in the moment so much. And really take a step back and realize, hey, what am I speaking for? And am I speaking for something? Or am I saying anything? Or am I just trying to win? And we'd be a lot better off if in the moment we didn't try to win those conversations. So that's a damn good question, Gina. And it's something I know I struggle with consistently. One, because of my upbringing and always having to be heard amongst a room full of loud people who always think they're right. So being a Glimp has a lot to do with that. Who my father is has a lot to do with that. Always having to be louder than and be right. Just being how I'm wired, who I'm married to, all that stuff. Being an athlete all my life, having to win in those moments. So, it's a really good question. It's something I always, try to keep an eye on, is making sure I'm not trying to win in the moment, and that's just not what I'm speaking for. So.
Yeah, he does. He does gotta win. He usually loves to win.
She asked about you, man.
Yeah. And in the past, I shut down so bad, yo. I would not even be able to finish my conversations with him because he just keeps coming at me, and I'd be like, yo, fuck this. Like, I'm not with it. You're not doing this right now. That's it. So we
well, and just ain't gonna let you be no punk in the moment. Like, it's a difference in you trying to win and you just gonna be a punk and not want to like sit in your shit. You gonna own up to your shit and not shut down.
What happened?
See.
Not today. What's happening? What's going on here?
For me, I think I like to be heard, but at this stage of my life, it's not necessarily important to win my conversations with my wife. And it is important to be heard. And, just to make sure I'm get my point across. But at the end of the day, I might have been different at an earliest point in my life, but definitely now winning isn't important.
And I'll piggyback on that because I just want to convey the next half, the second, the other end of the spectrum. That's all I want. I just want you to acknowledge that there is another end of the spectrum. I don't want you to be like, okay, I'm end all say all. What I'm saying is right. But I'm not gonna die on that hill. I'm not gonna climb that hill and die on that hill. But I just want to convey to you that there are two sides of the coin.
That's another pet peeve of mine. I'm going back to the beginning of that.
She done went back.
That's episode 1.
I'm keeping a list. I think you're up to 7.
I'm up to 7.
You're only supposed to get 3. I think you have found a way throughout this damn series to get like 7. Well, what you got? I love it.
Welcome to episode 157. Keita's pet peeve.
Hey, I'm gonna be all in there. I'm gonna have more pet peeves to go. But because remember I said I had a lot. But that's a big one for me because I'm a competitive person, but I'm not a competitive person when it comes to conversations. Thomas is so wants to win in a conversation so bad till he makes me be the person that he is.
Are you kidding?
And that's the thing. But this is my thing is my whole goal is the conversation is to have like a goal. Like why are we having this conversation? Like how are we gonna end it?
So we'll never have this conversation again. So it can be a fix, but not for him. He's just all go. He wants to have the last word. He wants to tell me why I was wrong. He wants to he goes down to even researching stuff. And the conversation is even done. He goes back to it. I'll say an example. This is an example. So today, it was one day. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So, we were talking about something like.
I'll let it talk.
Y'all silly. So it's down to everyone. I'm a pharmaceutical rep, right? So I sell a lot of items. So it's down to what even I do. So I said, I didn't know. I said one of my nurses called me today, and she stated that I gave her the wrong, percentage of alcohol because she wanted at least 70% according to CDA or whatever FDA. And I was like, oh. And Tom was like, well, the alcohol we have in our car, the hand sanitizer, is 70%. And I was like, and I was in his car, and I was like, no, this says 62%. I was like, we need to start looking for like a 70%. Then he was like, well, your alcohol was 70%. I was like, no, Thomas, it was like 62. This is the same hand sanitizer. Oh my God. The next day, I thought it was over. So the next day, I see he has a picture because I ended up driving his car to work today. So he sent a picture to me today and make sure he screenshot it and highlight that it says 70%. I'm like, really? Like, why not just leave that alone?
I just wanted to let her know that she had some good hand sanitizer. That's all I wanted to do.
Being informative.
I am not. Look, when it comes to sports and video games and things like that, I used to be ultra competitive. But when it comes to an argument I'm not like that. But I just want you to see the other side. That's all.
How about if I don't want to see the other side?
That's what it is, Thomas.
That's it. But you need to see the other side. You know? I mean, you need to see the other side. That's it.
Hey, Thomas, does she need to see the other
or
side?
Does she
or
right?
You just want her?
Do I want her?
Because apparently she don't need to see
the other side.
Right. That's clearly, like, to me, that's clearly a want that you want her to see the other side, but it may be a need for you, Thomas.
Well, but let me
in winning this argument.
Hold on, wait a minute. But going back to your point of people should hear people's needs and give it to them, right? I thought that's what y'all had.
That was a need for her. That was a need for him
to see the other side. That's his need.
That's what I just said, baby.
She
That's
give it
what
to
I
him?
just said. Is it a want for her or a need for him?
But y'all's point was, if it's a need for the other, give it to him, right? Ain't that what I heard?
That is what you heard, and I didn't say that he shouldn't be giving to her. I'm just saying that at that moment, it may not have been about Chiquita, but more about Thomas and his need to make sure that she understood
that he was right.
That her hand sanitizer was what he said it was. Like, I need you, me, Thomas. I need you to understand that I was right.
I'm gonna quote my younger cousin from a few shows and say, this is a whole nother show right here. So I'm gonna stop right here.
It ain't no whole nother show. You're just trying to prove a point.
That's show. And I'm gonna pause and I'm gonna stop.
That's all that is. That was about Thomas's need and not about Chiquita's wants.
There you go. I want a goal. He just wants to win.
She wanted the shit to be over. Like, we wouldn't even talk about saying hand sanitizer no more.
It wasn't that serious.
But that's a good point though. Like, at what point do you know that, like, if there's no like definite resolution to that conversation or any difficult conversation or disagreement, do y'all have any like issue or problems knowing when to let it go or when it's over?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I feel like Chiquita was like today or whenever day that was when he came back with the screenshot.
I thought that shit was over. Oh.
She was like, you know what? I thought this was over. But
Apparently not.
Clearly it's not for him. So, Bill, I accept your screenshot and we good. Thanks for letting me know. Like, that's the point where you're like, you know what? That's what you needed. Okay.
Right.
Thanks. Thanks for checking it for me, and I'm glad that mine is 70%, and now we can buy some more.
Yeah, now we can move on. Move on.
Right, but that, I mean, you know, it sounds to me that was more about Thomas, and I'm not saying that's fine. He needed to do that. But sometimes we just need to do that extra thing for us. It's not really about you necessarily. It's about us. And to your point, Jay, it's hard, and that's one of the things that make this communication so difficult. Right? It's complex. When do you know when it's about me versus when it's about the other person?
Right.
When do you concede? When do you fight? When are you determined to win? And when should you let it go?
Mm-hmm.
I try, and I think that Al could say that there's been a difference when I switched to, and again, I'm not there 100%, right? But I understand that it works out better for everybody if we take a win-win approach versus a win-lose, right? And JR and Ladine are familiar with this, but it's that idea of nobody has to be a loser.
Absolutely.
Unless nobody has to be a winner unless we decide.
And nobody has to be a bigger victim because people like to play that role.
Nobody has to be a victim. Nobody has to. It's, you know, how do we both come out of this situation as winners? And I remember when I don't know if you remember, when I first brought this concept home, Al said to me, what does that look like? You remember that, Al? A win-win situation. What does that look like? And it looks differently for different situations. Sometimes it looks like somebody loses, sometimes wins. Sometimes it looks like we're going to take turns winning and losing. Sometimes it looks like it's a compromise. Sometimes it's just about changing your perspective of what it means to be a loser, what it means to be a winner.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And sometimes it's about just getting out of this shit alive. You know, like
that's true.
With nobody getting injured. Right.
Yep. Right. Without damages that are so
irreparable.
Right.
Right. Then it becomes a problem. And so it's like, what is the win-win here? How do I change what I'm thinking, what I'm saying, what I'm doing, that everybody comes out thinking I didn't lose? Right? Because who wants to be a loser? Like, that's a horrible feeling. Like, I'm the loser in this situation. I'm a loser.
Right.
Like, nah. Like,
and at the end of the day, like, even after those moments when you want to win, who wants to watch their loved one lose?
Right.
You know, like, after that moment, I
think people do, though. Well, I think people do. I really do think. I mean, I think it's. We say who wants to watch. I think a lot of people do watch.
I guess you're right. Some people do. I'm speaking.
Right,
of,
they take because they are more interested in winning.
Right.
So to me, if you're more interested in winning, then you are willing to see your other lose.
And I agree. That's kind of why you go into the everybody wins kind of perspective. This is just going to be a win-win. You know, you don't lose necessarily. I don't lose. Like, just how do we make this the best situation? Because I think you're right, Al, that there are some people.
Yeah.
And honestly, there have been times, even for me, like, depending on what it is, it's like, oh, my God, I cannot get him to see that. And sometimes it feels like I'm losing. Like, I'm losing this fight. Like, why can't I get him to see my point of view? Like, why can't I? And like I said, sometimes it's about changing your perspective because that's not necessarily a loss. You know what I'm saying? But in the moment, it feels like oh my God, he cannot see this. And so it feels like a loss. But sometimes, again, it's about perspective. And a loss is sometimes necessary, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing. Like, you could not get your way, and that'd be a good thing for you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
it's about perspective.
I'm not even sure if I even look at it in terms of wins or losses. Like, I really don't. And I just go back to, I really just want to be heard. But I don't even see it as in, because at the end of the day, it is what it is. That's not a win or loss. It's just, I just want you to hear where I'm coming from.
But
that's it.
Yes,
That's it.
but
That's me.
You don't think that not being heard is equivalent to a loss? Like, if that is your goal and you don't get to that goal on some levels, that's a loss. And that's all I'm saying. Like, it's not like an ultimate loss. Like, it can never be regained. It can never. But if you walk away feeling like, damn, I'm still not heard. Like, and that's what I mean. No. So it doesn't have to be like a loss, like points per se.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you walk away feeling bad because you didn't get accomplished what you wanted to accomplish, like me not feeling heard.
But no. What I mean by I'm not talking about feeling heard, because I'm not expecting you to say I'm part of when I'm talking to you. I'm really not expecting you to be like, oh, okay, I see it the way you see it, or I hear you. What I mean by I just want to express myself. As far as I'm concerned, once I say it, you ain't got to listen. That's up to you. But I just want you to, as you're sharing what you're sharing, I just want, like Pooh, I like his phrase, share the other side of the coin. And then that's it. Then that's what I want to get accomplished. That's it. I don't look at it in wins and losses.
Yeah, but except if you're walking away not feeling heard, like, then what have you gained?
I don't walk away from because I'm saying it. So
this is the difference, babe, between you expressing something and someone hearing what you're saying.
I understand that, and I guess I don't necessarily you ain't gotta take it and hear it.
But that's what you said. I just want to be heard. So I'm just going by what you said.
I guess I just want to say it. Like, I need you to hear it, but I mean, not necessarily listen. The difference. I want you to hear me, but you don't gotta listen. Like, there is a difference between hearing and listening, or maybe.
Right. You don't gotta listen to me, but I want you to hear me. Rather, is that what you want to say?
That's what I'm saying.
No, but I feel like most people don't want to just be heard. They want to be listened to.
I'm not
Right.
most people. I'm just telling you who I am.
I don't know.
I feel you though, Al, because in that sense, it's not my responsibility what you do with my information. Like, you don't hear me. It's not my responsibility that you indulge in it or you listen to it. But but it's my responsibility to get it out.
That's what I focus on. I just want to be heard.
Right.
But no, okay.
What you're saying.
But
sounds like a different show.
That's what I was saying, Gina.
Right.
That's what I was saying. Gina, you hear me? You hear me fighting to be like, ooh, say something. No, don't say nothing, Gina. Say something. Don't say nothing, Gina. I am so, and I agree with you. Thank you, Jaquita, for bringing it back. Like, you right. That's a whole nother show.
All right, and I think that's key in letting it go, because I think in those moments, even if you think you won or you lost in the moment, we don't want to keep score and carry that shit on. And then, resentment starts to build up, scar tissue builds up, and people start keeping score. So whether you win or lose, or whether you even care, after that shit's over, let that shit ride.
Mm-hmm.
Let that shit ride.
Yeah,
So I
my
think
mind don't
I
even
think
work that way. I forget completely. I'll be in mid argument, be like, "What I wanted to argue about." Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go. And I think JR, you have coined the phrase for the evening. Let that shit go.
Let it shit
Hey,
go.
what I'm
So as much as you can, y'all, just let that shit go.
All right.
Be happy.
What I'm gonna do after hearing that, Gina, I'm gonna quote you. Oh, I don't recognize this person right here.
Now, listen, I may be many things, but I ain't no damn home wrecker. Okay? So
I don't recognize this person.
if you want to use that to progress your relationship forward, absolutely. But if you trying not to use that in a good way, no, sir, you may not quote me.
No, what I'm saying is like to say she let stuff go and what I don't know who is this.
I don't know if she said that.
And then I go out there and I'll quote my girl. What are we doing here? Like, like we podcasting. What are we doing here?
What we are doing here is doing the best that we can. Trying to make it.
You let it go though?
The best that we know how, which includes sometimes Chiquita letting it go. Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta let it go for everybody's sanity and for the sake of our relationships. True. So on that note, fam, walk into the situation with a win-win attitude. Don't worry about who's right, who's wrong. Just be the best that you can be for yourself and for your spouse.
Yeah.
Fam, have a good night. Thank you for joining us. Please be back next week. Same time, same channel. Love you. Good night.
Love y'all.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, peace.
Peace.
Best Medicine Podcast with Simba, sparking positive change in the community, having real conversations and therapy. You know that laughter's the best remedy. Got that heavy dose of humor for your hearts to heal. With mental health, it can't get any more real, yeah. Best Medicine Podcast. Laugh, love, learn. Best Medicine Podcast.
Best Med Pod. It's your man Simba Roar back in this thing one more time, bruh. Come get your weekly diagnosis Thursday at midnight. Only on the Defy Life Podcast Network. Check us out, though.